Chapter 41. Entourage. The regional was a 6-day tournament, but we were only going for 2 days, Wednesday and Thursday. I crammed a change of clothes into my backpack. It had been almost a week since my game with Tony, and I hadn't talked to her since. I knew she and Cliff had spent some time together, but if she told him about our bridge game, he didn't mention it to me. "Are you going to have your own room?" my mother asked me. "I guess so," I said. "Trap can afford it." "Well, I'm aware of what Uncle Lester can afford. What about Theodora?" "What about her?" I asked. "Is she going to have her own room too? Or is she going to be sharing a room with Uncle Lester?" "She's his nurse," I said. "She needs to be near him." "That's what worries me," said my mother. I hadn't told my mother my theory about Sophie being Trap's daughter. I parked in Trap's driveway and loaded his and Theodora's luggage into my car. Theodora kissed me on the cheek and called me her gallant young knight, pronouncing both the K and in night. Captain barked at me. I think the dog knew from the suitcases that I was taking Trap away from him for a couple of days. I would have been happy to pick Gloria up at her condo, but she had told Trap that it was too far out of the way and insisted on meeting us at a parking lot near the freeway. If I had known that the parking lot would be deserted, and that the restaurant connected to it was boarded up and covered in graffiti, I would have insisted on the other arrangements. I pulled into the parking lot, and there was Gloria, standing by her car, wearing every piece of jewelry she owned, purse in hand and flowered suitcase by her side. Don't these people ever watch the news? I wondered. I made her move her car to a busier parking lot. She called me a worrywart. "Alton takes such good care of us," said Theodora, sitting behind me. She massaged the back of my neck. "Before you get the wrong idea about Theodora, I just think she's one of those people who seem to overflow with love and warmth. And if my mother was right, and she did share some of her love with my 76-year-old uncle, well, good for him, I thought. Good for both of them." "Used to be," Trap said. "When I go to a bridge tournament, I'd never stay in a hotel room. I'd just sleep on someone's couch. If I was lucky enough to get the couch. There might be 5 or 6 of us bridge bums, crashed out on the floor. Now I'm staying in a suite at a 4-star hotel, with my entourage. You'd think I was a rock star." "You are a rock star," said Theodora. "And everything's booked for Chicago?" Trap added. "What's Chicago?" I asked. "My next gig," said Trap. "Ha!" "The Nationals are in Chicago this year," said Gloria, "and I plan to pay for my own hotel room and airfare." "Too late," said Trap. "Mrs. Mahoney has already done it online." "He flies me to Chicago," said Gloria. "Puts me up in a fancy hotel. Gosh, what will the neighbors think?" "Ooh la la," said Theodora. "Ha!" laughed Trap. "What else am I supposed to do with all of my money?" In the back of my mind, I could hear my mother say, "Now's your chance, Alton." I could almost feel her elbow jabbing me in the side. "Tell him about your father losing his job." I ignored my mother's voice. I had my own agenda. "When you used to go to tournaments and sleep on floors," I began, "was that when Annabelle was your partner?" In my rear view mirror, I saw Gloria cross her arms back and forth in front of her face, telling me not to go there. "No, that was before Annabelle," said Trap. "When I was sleeping on floors, Annabelle was playing bridge in the White House." Despite Gloria's gestures, I couldn't let that pass. "The White House?" I asked. Ike was an avid bridge player," he said. "Ike in case you didn't know, I didn't, was the nickname of President Dwight D. Eisenhower. When he ran for president, his campaign slogan was, "I like Ike." Sounds like a TV sitcom, I said. TV was still new then, my uncle said. I remember we all had such high hopes for it. We thought it would bring culture to the masses. Ha! Little did we know that it would lower everyone's cultural and moral standards. I like television, said Theodora. It was a different era back then, said Gloria. Nowadays, everyone walks around in their own little world, plugged into their cell phones or iPods. We used to interact more with each other. We played games like charades or board games, like Scrabble or Monopoly. And of course, the greatest game was bridge. Alton likes video games, said my uncle. He chases little pixels of light. I ignored the remark. So, you were telling me about Annabelle playing bridge at the White House? In the rearview mirror, Gloria dragged her fingers across her throat, but I pretended not to notice.